All right, let's eat a little bit of crow. Last week on the show, we boldly announced that we're not going to have to talk about the grand bargain anymore. And then moments later, Gene Sperling comes out and says Democrats need to swallow cuts to Social Security and Medicare. I still feel pretty confident that it's not going to happen, that ship has left, that Gene Sperling may be saying this just more to provide some type of reasonable, I don't know, to basically kowtow to the establishment groupthink in Washington. I know you had a piece about Dick Durbin a couple of weeks ago on the Sunday talk shows talking about this. Was it a couple of weeks ago that he said it? Or was it just this past week?
Well, he said it, I guess now he said it, I think 12 days ago.
Okay.
And my piece came out at the end of last week. And I think it came out over the weekend, actually. And it was, it was sort of an open letter to him, and it was explaining why on a policy and a political level what he was saying was wrong, and it was stupid. I don't really know how else to put it. I respect Dick Durbin on some other things, but he has this so wrong, and I have to believe he purposefully has it wrong. And again, this is a time when people are making arguments. Reuters just had a piece today that is the answer to what's going on out there, where pensions are a thing of the past, guaranteed pensions, and 401ks have destructed and the rest. The answer to that is actually more Social Security,
Yes.
is enhancing it.
And that's what this is what's so frustrating about this administration to me is that we had Becky Bond on the other day, and I know that you know of a bunch of, and you've worked at different times with some of these groups that are basically fighting just to send the message to Democratic lawmakers: do not cut Social Security. When people can contemplate the energy, the money, the mobilizing that is going into just protecting what should be a flank that should not need any protecting, whereas all of these resources could be going into fighting for immortration reform, could be fighting for expansion of Social Security, could be fighting for the public option, could be fighting for Medicare for all, for federalizing Medicaid, for pre-K, for universal pre-K, for
his gun bills that ended up failing,
on and on and on and on. But the administration,
and instead we're wasting money, time, effort on something where he seems to think that this is his legacy. And why can't his legacy be, I fixed the retirement crisis, which isn't being caused by Social Security, but is being caused by the disappearance of guaranteed pensions for people and all the troubles with 401ks and the rest. Wouldn't that be a better legacy? I mean, everything now says that any actual study where you read beyond the bubble in D.C. tells you need to do things, you need to go beyond where we were before. And the irony of all of this is one of the big reasons for that is the huge income disparity we have right now, that Social Security even has any issues to begin with, right. Because you may remember, under good old St. Ronald Reagan, 90% of income fell under the cap.
Right.
But enough of the income distribution has gone to the top 1% that now only 84% of it goes into the cap. Well, if you were to raise the cap to $200,000 right now, you'd fix that, and we'd have $100 billion right away. But you know what? Even that's ridiculous. Tom Harkin has a bill to phase out the cap entirely. Bernie Sanders has a bill that would start eliminating the cap from everything up north of $250,000. We could save $40 billion over 10 years if we wanted to by getting rid of oil subsidies. We could save another $40 billion by getting rid of agribusiness, the money going to the subsidies to big agribusiness. God knows what we could save out of the Defense Department. This is just ridiculous. It's ridiculous, it's counterproductive, and it's stupid. It is stupid politically because right now you have these teabaggers on the ropes. Look at what's about to happen in Virginia to Cuccinelli over the shutdown, which is enormously unpopular, and even according to a poll today, even with what's going on with this Obamacare rollout, 44% of people thought that the government shutdown was much worse, and 22% of people said Obamacare. So it's a 2-to-1 margin still, right? But you're wasting your time on something that we shouldn't be wasting our time on.
I'm not. I'll tell you something. I mean, in my most cynical moments, when I am woken up at 3 a.m. by a crying baby. It actually occurred to me the other night that, it's not inconceivable that the reason why they send Gene Sperling out there to make these type of speeches, is Obama's top economic advisor, is just to divert the energies.
It's just what? I'm sorry?
It's just to divert the energies of of progressive activism to this rear guard protection. Just literally to prevent for too much pressure to hit on other agenda items.
But that's amazing. So I guess, and if that is true, and I don't blame you for being that cynical, because anything's possible. Certainly, I don't believe for a second that Dick Durbin is out there without going to the White House.
Oh no, of course,
fronting for them.
Of course.
So nothing's too cynical in Washington, sadly. And I mean, it's sort of like, well, great, do that. Waste progressives' time, and then don't get your immigration bill in the end, which is part of your legacy too, by the way, pal. I mean, if these people are that dumb, then they're that dumb. They seem to be that dumb on at least a level, even if they're not trying to divert energies. They are. They're wasting their time on something that is counterproductive and stupid, politically hugely unpopular, to the tune of 84% of people saying they don't want their Social Security cutting across all lines, including 74% of self-described Tea Partiers. Right? Because they're old white guys. Cut programs for everybody else, not for me. But at least they're smart enough to know, don't cut programs for me, so they happen to be with us on this issue. And, it's just, so again, you're closer to some Tea Partiers on this issue, apparently, than you are to Obama. Or certainly Dick Durbin and Obama, if he comes out and says it. And I just don't get this. It makes no sense in no way. Looking at the retirement crisis that's coming up, it is so stupid. Policy-wise, it is so far from being progressive. It is so far from common sense, and politically, it literally is the stupidest thing you could do. It is the only thing right now that maybe can stop Democrats from picking up seats in 2014.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. And but I don't know that, frankly, the administration cares about that. It certainly didn't mar Bill Clinton's legacy in the minds of the establishment in D.C. that he lost both the House and Senate under his presidency.
No, but it did mar his legacy that he got impeached because he lost that House and Senate.
Yeah,
maybe President Obama should try losing the Senate and seeing what happens when they impeach him. Which
I'm not convinced it didn't put his favorability ratings at 60%. Frankly, I think in many respects. While it certainly helped progressives in the sense that it stopped a lot of Bill Clinton's neoliberal agenda at one point. I mean, he needed the left at that point in a way that he didn't earlier in his administration. But it also ended up, I think, boosting his favorability ratings. But look, we only have a couple minutes, 2 minutes left.
Okay, so let's just get to what's important here, though, very quickly. We have a couple minutes, but just to end on this topic, because this is important, which is, whatever Obama's interests are, that doesn't really matter here, because you could talk about your pressure against his legacy maybe or whatever. The real pressure you have is against Democrats who come out for this. And really, as the AFL-CIO has let me know, that they will go after each and every one of their careers. These 9 Democrats, and it's going to be hard with someone like Dianne Feinstein, who's probably retiring, and with Baucus, who is retiring, but some of these other guys like Michael Bennett out in Colorado and Joe Manchin in West Virginia, people should let them, Mark Warner in Virginia, let them know that you will be there fighting them every step the rest of the way of their careers if they do this. That is the way you stop this.